live from none other than the beautiful Barber Motorsport Park. It is the SCCA Pro Fan League, brought to you by Fans for Fans. I'm Jake Young, and this should be a great one. A very small field tonight, or today, but it should make for some great close racing indeed. As there you go. 3 drivers here today. Bradley Sikorsky, Elise Spezia, and David Boutres are your 3 drivers who decided to grid up today. Either way, this should be a blast of a race, even though, yes, there are 3. You take a look at how difficult this track is. We'll actually ride on board with Boutres here as he tries to complete his lap. So there you go. Very slippery racing surface. Fix that up very quickly for you, where it just decides to switch constantly. There we go. There he comes down for the start-finish straight. And we'll try to complete full lap and try to get on the point here. It will be very important to stay on the point, because I think whoever has the race lead will have that clean air, will be able to build themselves up a nice gap. But down into, I believe, turn 2. It's a slow one. You don't want to upset the rear of the race car, so you have to be very careful on that. The last couple of rounds, or basically this whole series that we've seen, the driver who normally wins, A, stays out of trouble, and B, really knows how to nurse this car and stay on the limit around every circuit that they've raced at so far. We went to VIR last week. That was the case. If you wanted to push and try to get everything out of this race car, you had a chance to spin out. You can hear how much he's kind of feathering the throttle to make sure that he gets around this racing circuit here at Barber Motorsport Park. Crosses the line. It's going to put him in second place, actually ahead of Elise. So we'll ride on board with Elise here as he tries to continue his battle and maybe get another lap on the board here in qualifying. Loses the back end a little, so that will disallow that lap. So he goes off the racing surface. We'll disallow that lap, and now we'll check in on, well, the driver who has been one of the all-stars throughout this race. I take that back, actually, but Sikorsky will have an opportunity, and will try his hardest to make something happen. He dives into pit lane, actually, with 1:17.669. That is your race leader. That is your qualifying leader at the moment. 15 minutes of qualifying. We're just about 6 minutes in. So we'll get you back with Elise here. Try and see how his lap might go. I'm actually curious to see his racing inputs here. Using a lot of steering for this racetrack. A lot of hairpin turns as well, so want to attack that corner right there, and that's exactly what he's been able to do. Now this racetrack is very tight indeed, and a challenging one, not only for the F3 cars, but we also saw, of course, a couple of weeks ago when the start of the IndyCar series with the pro drivers started. We saw how difficult it was to kind of make overtakes, and if you were on the basically on the edge, it was just very difficult. So this is one racetrack that drivers almost despise. But in my opinion, it's very fun if you do get it right, indeed. Now we will ride with David Boudreaux to see if he can improve his lap time. As a 1:18.667 is for Elise. He sits in second position, about a second off of your race leader, which is, or second off of the man on the point at the moment, Bradley Sikorsky. We'll see if David can improve his lap time as we follow him around this very tight and difficult race course, trying to get a wide entrance into that second to last corner there. And we'll start making a run to get a faster lap time. It uses up the curb a little bit too much, and that's going to spin him out. And of course, one thing about these cars, about just the way that the tire model is, it simulates, of course, the tires will heat up a lot. Hopefully he didn't flat spot his tires, because he wants to go for another run most likely. So we'll have to cool those tires off and see where he ends up next. But at least back out onto the racetrack. We'll try and set up for another fast lap here. Through the start-finish straight he goes. Used a lot of brake there. He did pick up some grass, but I believe that did not necessarily slow him down too much, and I don't believe he got next for that. That's going to send him off track, and that will definitely disallow his lap. Now back to Bradley Sikorsky. Attacking it a lot there, going off track a little. That's the only problem. That can really happen if you are attacking it too much. We've seen it from the other tracks. It likes to spin you out when you hit the grass off the pavement. We saw it happen at VIR. We didn't necessarily see it happen too much at Circuit of the Americas, but back at Road Atlanta, that was the same deal too. So that's something that these drivers will have to be careful about. Glad to have you with us here on the broadcast. Again, this is SCCA, the SCCA Pro Fan League. by fans for fans. And I don't know about the rule this week because there are 3 cars. So I think it might be the same case that all 3 of these drivers will get to go race against the pros after this one. So this could be practice for maybe, of course, next week. Though, of course, they race at Barber Motorsport Park, I believe, next week. Might be the final round. This could be the penultimate. Not necessarily positive on that note. Either way, we look back, and we have about 3 minutes to go here in qualifying. Bradley Sikorsky still with the pole at the moment. Hasn't necessarily improved his time. 1:17.669 is still his time, and he is looking pretty fierce with the pack, and maybe with, of course, a race victory. Now, the interesting thing is, right through that corner, I've seen it already. A couple of drivers have locked up. Of course, it is easy to lock up your right front tire. Why is that? Well, it's because it's almost like the corkscrew at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Where you go down that track, that part of the circuit, really, and it locks up your right front sometimes because you take a wide entry in there and you get over to the left side, and it kind of makes the air, and when the car, your right rear in the air, your right front in the air, when that happens, when it comes back down, it kind of locks it up, and it's very difficult on that part of the racetrack to have that much speed. But either way, we continue on. I'm looking at Elise Spezia once again. Just hits it a little too wide, having a little bit of difficulty here, and it's just due to trying to find the limit to this race car. But we look once again at David. See what type of lap time he can put down here. See, he is improving ever so slightly. Then very impressive, trying to, of course, maybe take the front row. This isn't too long of a circuit, 2.38 miles, 16 turns. Still a good distance, but only 16 turns. He will lose it around that corner, just trying to, which I believe what happened was he got the curbing there, and that upset the race car and sent him around. See Elise there losing the back end. Stayed on the race car, or stayed on the racing surface. Yes, we'll have to set up for another fast lap. So we'll be careful. Once again, you see that right side tire locked up a little. It's going to happen a lot. How many drivers, or can the drivers nurse that right front tire to where it's not going to be that bad? He's going to go back into pit lane here.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, David. When was the last time I actually saw you? It's been a while, hasn't it?
We'll quickly go into options and
Who, me?
done. All right, and that is checkered, actually. So we'll be moments away from the grid. But as it stands, Bradley Sikorsky gets pole position. David Boudres ends up being Elise and gets that second place, so fills the front row with a 1:18.454 and a 1:18.667. So a very close grid here today. Elise Spezia in third position, but of course it all matters about the long run. Who can stay on the race course? Who won't overdrive this race car as well? That's going to be key. But we're moments away from finding everything out. We're still technically in qualifying, but that is your lineup. So just 30 seconds away from starting this out. Starts have been exciting here in this series. So looking forward to it. Still plenty of time. Actually, check that. It's exactly 0 seconds. Moments away from gridding up, as all three racers are out there just waiting on iRacing.
Green, green, green.
And there we go. We're off here at Barber Motorsport Park. A great start by our race leader as they head into turns 1 and 2. Sikorsky got a great start, and he's continuing to kind of show that. David spins out in the first corner. That's another thing. Tires. Why I bring that up, of course, is because they are cold at the start of the races. And just like that, you can lose grip. With Elise Spezia at the moment trying to catch your race leader. Just like we said, it's very early. 30 minutes is a long time here. 16 corners. Racing surface, but 2.38 miles, so a good length. This race course. Up all the curb, gets a little upset. The car gets a little upset there, but still continues it. Already down to about 2.5 seconds from your race leader, Sikorsky. Able to not lock up the race car, which is very key. Use up the curbing too. That could play a factor in the end because of unequal tire wear with your left side tire, but of course you have to just worry mainly about your rears not necessarily heating them up too much. That's exactly what Elise has been able to do, especially in this series. Still about a straight away. So I believe David is going to be a lap down. Already 4 seconds of a lead for Bradley Sikorsky. A nice job there. The rest actually still on the lead lap here. Very good race lead for this driver. Ride visor cam with him. Just want to see how he's really dealing with these laps here. Well, something that I learned not too long ago here. Left and right. You're not necessarily driving the race car. But a very good Seal, just very calmly working throttle up into fifth gear through that corner. Flat out, very impressive. Down into second gear. And really manages to work the throttle through the corners. Something that's very difficult to do because you have to wait for the race car to center out and work with it. Once you feel like the car won't spin out, it's perfect. So nice job of just learning this race car and figuring out what exactly to do for this racer. So nice job from Sikorsky. We'll go around the field once again. Viva is one lap down now. And 5 seconds, just about 6 seconds, is the gap from Elise to your race leader. Down the final couple of corners he goes. And we'll cross the start-finish straight for another lap. So especially in these leagues, especially in this series, it's all about you racing the surface. All about you racing the racetrack, seeing what you can do with this car. And that's what we've seen, of course, a couple of weeks. How have these drivers been able to gain positions and get into, of course, like a third place position for a podium finish? Well, it's the driver in front of them makes a mistake. Of course, they can pass them with pure pace because they're focused on what kind of is lying ahead, and it has just worked out for them. Sikorsky still your race leader. Checking on none other than David Boudres. He's had pace. He just had some bad luck spinning out on lap 1. I believe getting into the fence or something. Having to reset his race car and get back out there with new tires. But throughout the race weeks that I've seen him in this series, he has impressed me a lot with how much, of course, pace he has. Just sometimes loses it. Nice run by Elise. Able to obtain second position. Yes, 10 seconds back, but Bradley Sikorsky, let me tell you something, he has been very impressive, not only in this league, but also, of course, in this race in general. Has a ton of pace. Look at how much he's just carrying through the toughest part, or maybe the funnest part of the racetrack. Just carries a lot more speed than both the drivers, both of his competitors, to be exact. Brakes late. Easing through the corners, but is able to balance the race car perfectly. Gets a little loose sometimes, but gathers it up. That's been that difference maker from him to all the race leaders that have been in this series. It's how much you know to just control the race car, balance the race car up, and then are able to push the limit to your car. And of course, just showing the field how much he's capable of. I believe next week will be Sebring. So that race should be very popular indeed. See a lot of racing drivers join that one. But wow, bunny hops over that corner there. He used up a lot of curb. Once again, controlling the race car nicely and continuing to impress and just get his lead up to 11, almost 12 seconds now. Ten minutes into this one, we got 20 minutes left in this race. So the big thing will be closer to the end of the race is tire wear. I think that's when, especially closer to the end of the race, I think that's where we'll see a couple of mistakes from almost every driver. It's just, of course, they want to push as much as possible, and sometimes, of course, you think you're closer to the end, so you almost let off the throttle sometimes, especially in races like this. And it just happens, mistakes, because, well, they're almost fatigued. So we could expect something like that closer to the end. But it's also how much these drivers will push at the start of the race to the end of the race, with tire wear being a big factor, where you can blow a tire, if I'm not mistaken, in these race cars. But a nice job from each of these drivers staying clean and making sure that they can gain every inch and every second possible. Because remember, yes, there are 3 drivers in this race, but you never can get enough seat time in these race cars, whether it's Del RF3 or Mazda. And why I bring that up is, well, you just get more and more comfortable with the race car as the race goes on, with the track. And then when you're comfortable with the race car, I feel like any track wouldn't necessarily be too much of a challenge for you. And so that's where the confidence starts to play a factor and just gets you ready, of course, for the challenge ahead, for the next round and the next round, and of course until championship is settled. keeping an eye on the race time here. 19-second race lead, or almost a 20-second race lead for the leader, Bradley Sikorsky, over Elise Spezia. And I mean, showed you why exactly. Sikorsky, compared to the rest of the drivers, just taking so much speed throughout the corners. And it's a very tough match for these racers, but they're doing a fantastic job trying to keep up with him, making sure that they can keep their positions. Now the good news is they will each get a podium and will each be able to race against the pros next Tuesday. Once again, just riding on board with your leader, Sikorsky, here. Very impressed with the way that he's been able to drive. It's been a perfect drive, almost a Sunday drive for him. Once again, just knowing how much to push with his race car. Seems to just have a little wear in his right side racing tire, even his left side, but very normal. He's starting to lose just a little pace. But other than that, still not a great show. What he's been able to do is really just flick the car into the corners, carry his momentum, carry the speed. And the car has been able to stick because he knows how much to put on the corners, basically. Driver's still using 6th gear. Our visor cam with David Gutierrez. He's trying to, well, get his lap back and also pass Elise Spezia. Not for position, but almost to get his lap back from him. He isn't the race leader. At least he's not the race leader, but take that into account. He'll still technically be on that same lap as Elise if he passes it. But we'll see what Elise does when the rest has an opportunity to pass Elise. So now up to a 26, almost 27-second lead for Bradley Sikorsky. But we're focused a little bit on this. It's a slight battle, but not necessarily for position. So of course, Elise is still on the lead lap, and David with the early spin is not on the lead lap. 21 minutes completed in this one, in this 30-minute race. And another thing is, with the slipstream, there aren't a lot of straights here at this racetrack, but the front stretch and I believe the back stretch is where you can really almost get caught and have to defend a little bit. So we'll see what Elise decides to do. Still a good distance away from each other. And almost now 28-second lead as both Elise and David messed up that corner. Took a little too much curbing. Both of them just follow each other into the same path. To be exact, David followed Elise into that same path and ran a little wide. So Elise runs wide once again. Doesn't damage the race car. But that will definitely lose him some time to the race leader. Who locks it up just a little. And Mr. Kane. Still has that same pace as when we started the race here at Barber Motorsport Park. Flies through the first two corners. Very impressive. Actually gaining on this pack with that mistake from Elise earlier. Think there is a chance that Elise will get lapped and the race leader, of course, he will lap the whole field. He does go into pit lane. So I guess the strategy is to get fresh tires here. We'll keep an eye out for this real quick. You all know that the race leader will come by here in a second. Actually does look like maybe some front wing damage. I wouldn't really say front wing damage, no, just tire change, and he's back out and away. Felt like he didn't have the grip that he once had at the start of the race, so got some fresh tires. And now we have a race leader, Bradley Sikorsky, right there behind second place. Locks it up a little. That could be the difference maker from at least not necessarily getting lapped, is the fresher tires. Now with a 30-minute race like this, especially in the regular FRA format and a 4 format, and even these races with the F3 Europe format. Since it's such a quick race, there's no need to really change your tires. But sometimes, of course, with iRacing, as Elise does let him by, it now will be a lap down. But as I'm trying to get, but my point really is that it's so funny from the iRacing perspective to this, is that you can get your tires changed because, of course, you still have a fresh set of rubber. In all of those other formats, you don't necessarily have a fresh set of tires because you have enough for a qualifying and a practice set, maybe one racing set, something like that. The rest are worn tires because you've used them. So, and then of course throughout the race weekend there's like 3 races. So, definitely the difference maker there. Now back with David Boudres. Boudres, I believe, is a good distance away from the race leaders. Of course, now he's on the same lap as Elise. Went through the last 2 corners down the start-finish straight. We'll check exactly. Elise is on the backstretch already. So that's interesting to put into perspective that I believe Boudres has a bigger chance of getting lapped once again. Down the front stretch, Boudres goes once again. So very impressive race by Bradley Sikorsky with 29 minutes. So about a minute to go here, or a lot less than that actually. So this should be around the last lap. So we'll change camera angles. We will ride with your race leader and most likely the race winner. 30 minutes have passed. Comes down the final corner. It looks like this is the last lap. So stay on board with Sikorsky. So let's most likely take this race victory. If nothing happens, internet issues or wrecks the race car. say almost commentator curse there, but able to secure the win. Down the final corner, he got pole. And we'll go from pole to victory once again. Almost every racer in this series has gone from pole to victory, so very impressive from Bradley Sikorsky. Does it from pole. Sikorsky rounds, or check that, as Butres rounds the final two corners. It's a little off track there, but will be able to finish in one piece. That is your race. Bradley Sikorsky wins. Elise Spezia finishes in second position, and David Butres in third. All three of those drivers, if I'm not mistaken, will be able to race maybe in that final race, which will be Sebring Raceway next week. So I believe that is the schedule for FR Americas. But a very impressive race. Was very fun to watch. I had a blast bringing it to you all once again. Congratulations once again to Bradley Sikorsky. He deserved that race victory. Had pace all throughout the race and even qualifying in practice. Elise Spezia finishes second place. A great run from him. And he controlled that second place as well. Passed right off the start from David Butres. And figured out his long-run game, knew that he could keep second place and decided to get fresh tires, which was also impressive. That's when he had more pace at the end, too. So then David Butres had an early spin. What it could have been if he did not, we weren't able to find out, at least from that. But either way, a blast bringing it to you. I've been Jacob Young. This has been a Tip of Texas Sports Network broadcast. Hopefully you all enjoyed this once again. And get ready for, of course, next week. As always, stay tuned for more coverage of FR Americas on this channel, F4 USA. And, of course, this series. Love to bring it to you all. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one. Once again, I've been Jacob Young. Adios.